Welcome back to our webinars that is happening usually every month. And today I would like to introduce Dr. Nahed Yaish. Dr. Nahid Yaish is the general manager and co-founder of SOP Consultancy. She has 19 years experience in pharmaceutical field, 14 years experience as a QA personnel responsible for QPPV and LSR. She is also having a 4 years experience as a BD, QA, RAPV consultant for a manufacturer, drugstores located in Jordan. She have successfully established a system for QAPV and RA, which passed successfully local inspection and European audit, qualified international trainer by International College in London. We are honored to have you with us today, Doctor. And today we will be speaking about, and she will be helping us to know more about the GSDP, which is a mandatory nowadays for every drugstore, manufacturer, or even a scientific office to have their own SOPs and related to the same. Welcome on board, Dr. Nahed.
Thank you, Dr. Mona. It's my pleasure to be here today with you. Yes, today we are going to talk about the good storage and distribution practices compliance, and we will talk why they are required, especially when it's considered as a competition metric between domestic and foreign companies. Also, it's a customer requirement, one of the customer requirements that enhance the competitiveness to win more markets. And the most important reason is when there is a high risk to face substandard and falsified products, which are a significant threat to public health and safety within the supply chain. Now, to understand more this subject, we need at the beginning to understand the complex movement of the product around the world. We need to understand that the supply chain starts with one entity and it goes through different steps, different entities which are involved in supply chain, starting from the raw material of the product until being used by the consumer or the patient. Now, in each step or each stop points, products are handled by various people and stored and distributed by different entities. So let's think more about it. We will find that there will be at different areas, different regions, different kinds of transportation, different zones or storage conditions, and they might be handling a sensitive product to a higher or lower temperature or humidity. So as long as the product is going through many different stops, which include various people and different entities and different conditions. So it means that we may face the risk of the substandard and falsified products. Now, what are the falsified products and the substandard products? According to the WHO, the World Health Organization, the falsified product is defined as the product that has been deliberately and or fraudulently misrepresented to its identity, composition, or source. WHO referred to composition as any ingredient or component of the product. They refer to the identity to the product labeling or packaging or its documentation. They refer to the source to for example, the name and address of the marketing authorization holder, to the importer, exporter, and etc. This is the falsified product. While the substandard products, which are the medical products that are authorized by national regulatory authority, but they fail to meet either national or international quality standards or specifications. In some cases, both the national and international cases. And they also call those substandard products as out of specification products. Now, based on that, these products, the substandard and falsified products, are considered as a significant threat to public health and safety. So it's essential to protect the supply chain against the penetration of these products. What does that mean? Supply chain may affect the most important three criteria that must be ensured for any product intended to be used by the consumer or patient: efficacy, safety, and quality. Everybody knows that the major role of any regulatory authority around the world is ensuring the safety, efficacy, and quality for the products that which will be used by the patients. Now, recently, we have noticed the continuous development and production of medical products such as pharmaceuticals and medical devices, etc., around the world. And because of that, supply has become more complex as various people and entities are responsible for handling, storage, distribution, trade of these medical products. So these products may be subjected to various risks at different stages in the supply chain, whether it's during the storage, purchasing, repackaging, transportation, and maybe a distribution. So based on that, supply chain quality and safety have become more difficult during the life cycle of these products. So any mistake in distribution can cause shortages, delays, and even the introduction of the falsified and substandard medicines into the market. So the quality of the medical or pharmaceutical products must be guaranteed during the transportation and storage. Now, in these situations, international pharmaceutical companies, they have put higher technical management requirements for the medical pharmaceutical product supply chain that cover storage, trade, and distribution. And based on that, the WHO, the World Health Organization, they published the most representative and universal guidelines on medical pharmaceutical product storage, distribution practices, and it's called the Good Storage and Distribution Practices, which are used for better regulate the process of the storage and distribution and ultimately protect the consumer rights. Now, these regulations, the GSDP, helps to ensure the quality of medical products by regulating how they are stored, how they are transported, how they are handled, and they are important because they protect patients and ensure they receive safe and effective medications, which means a high quality product. Now, according to WHO regulations, and as long as we are talking about products equality and patient safety, every party active in the supply chain has to comply with the applicable legislations and regulations to maintain the quality of the medical products. Every activity in the storage and distribution of medical products must be carried out according to the GSDP. The responsibilities involved in the different stages within the supply chain and to avoid the introduction of the substandard and falsified products into the market has been identified by the regulation, by the WHO GSDP regulation, by ICH, by the US Pharmacopoeia also, and we will talk about that later. Therefore, there should be a collaboration between all entities, including governments, customs agencies, regulatory authorities, manufacturers, distributors, entities responsible for the supply of medical products to patients. All of them must collaborate to ensure the quality and safety of the medical product to prevent the exposure of patients to the substandard and falsified products. And by that, we will ensure that the integrity of the distribution chain is maintained. Now, at the beginning, I need to highlight that the principle of the good storage practices or good distribution practices, and all are within the good storage distribution practices, the principles of the good storage and distribution practices are applicable to, first, the medical product moving forward in the distribution chain from the manufacturer to the patient, and the medical product moving backward in the chain. The medical product moving forward from the manufacturer to the distributor, then to the patient, and moving backward within the chain. And moving backward, it might be a result of return or recall, for example. Now, why we need good storage and distribution practices in business point of view, okay, business point of view, because government regulators and international companies have increased the security and complexity of medical and pharmaceutical product storage, trade and distribution, as well as audits of the logistics companies in the supply chain, such as wholesalers and distributions. And in addition, with the internationalization of medical or pharmaceutical product trade, imports and exports, they have an intensified competition between the domestic and foreign counterparts. Now, furthermore, the pharmaceutical product quality and safety incidents in circulating the products across the globe have also increased. So safety of medical or pharmaceutical product is a concern, while the quality is also increasingly demanding. In addition to all of that, it's very crucial, and it is a regulatory requirement to choose a reliable partner that establishes or improves their management system and level of medical or pharmaceutical product storage and distribution management, as well as keeping pace with the common international requirements. Now, I would like to show you I will share the US pharmacopoeia to find what they have mentioned about the good storage and distribution practices. Just let me share it with you. Okay. Now this is the US Pharmacopoeia, the section of general information, the good storage and distribution practices for drug products. So we're not talking only about the regulations of the WHO and the ICH. We're also talking about the pharmacopoeias, okay? The pharmacopoeia also, it contains a section that is only for the good storage and distribution practices for the product. Let's read a few statements within this section, USP section. The first one, within the introduction, they mentioned that to ensure that the GSDP is to ensure the drug products, medicines reach the end user, practitioners and patients, consumers, with the quality intact. Okay, now, within the scope, they mentioned that the GSDP applied to all organizations and individuals involved in any aspect of the storage and distribution of all the drug products, including but not limited to the following: manufacturers, packaging operations, importers and exporters of record, wholesale distributors, third-party logistics providers, healthcare professionals, and etc. Also, they have mentioned that storage and distribution process may involve a complex movement of product around the world, differences in documentation and handling requirements, and communication among various entities in the supply chain. And they mentioned that the GSDP described in this USP chapter should facilitate the movement of the drug product throughout the supply chain that is controlled, measured, and analyzed for continuous improvements, and should maintain the integrity of the drug product in its packaging during the storage and distribution. Okay, Now we will only review the sub topics within the GSDP, or the headlines within the GSDP, which will demonstrate the major elements that should be included within our organization to comply with the GSDP. First, we need to have a quality management system. To maintain a quality management system that is based on standard quality concepts, include the GMP in compliance with the appropriate regulatory agencies, and is complementary to the ICH equality guidance, the ICH Q10 and the ICH Q9, the pharmaceutical quality system and the quality risk management systems. So now we have the WHO, we have the US Pharmacopoeia, we have the ICH, the Q9 and the Q10. They have also mentioned that the QMS, the quality management system, includes the following management system programs. It must include the following programs, which are the storage management system, the distribution management system, the environmental management system, and the risk management system. And they have also mentioned the minimum elements, which are the CAPA, the change management, deviation investigation management, and the management review process. And also they have mentioned the quality agreement. This is a very important issue within that should be considered within the GSDP. They mentioned the good documentation practices that must be applied within the whole organization, the storage management system, the distribution management system, the environmental management system, the major elements of the QMS, and the emergency transportation. This is one of the very crucial issues that must be covered, the risk management system, and they conclude that it's equally important to stay current and be ready to change and new solutions evolve. These new technologies should be considered in developing strategies for good distribution practices and controls and procedures. They have concluded the importance of the implementation of the good storage and distribution practices. Okay, now, based on that, we have noticed within the USB that the QMS must include the 4 important programs: the storage management system, the distribution management system, the environmental management system, and the risk management system, with considering the other minimal requirements that must be available within the organization. Okay. Now, we will talk now about the GSDP, the good storage and distribution requirements. We will just highlight just a few points about the quality management requirements, personnel requirements, documentation requirements, premises and equipment requirements. We'll talk about also the process of flow, whether it's receipt, storage, deliveries to customers. We'll talk about the self-inspection, contract operations, complaints, retains, and recalls. Okay, now we will start with the quality management. We must have a quality management system that should include the activities to ensure the confidence that the product delivered is not adulterated during the storage and or the transportation. There should be a responsible person appointed by the management for each distribution site. The quality system must be fully documented and its effectiveness must be monitored. The quality system must also include the quality management review and risk management. Also, the quality management must include the outsourcing activities, which must be controlled by the quality management system, and the process should incorporate quality risk management, and it should include a prior assessment of the outsourcing operations. It must define the responsibilities and communication process for equality-related activities of the involved parties, and to monitor and review the performance of the contract acceptor. All what I have mentioned related to the quality management must be stated within written controlled procedures, SOPs. Okay, that should cover every or each activity within the quality management system, and all will be should be summarized within the quality manual. Now I will talk with the other requirement, which is the personnel requirements. There should be a management representative, and the management representative must be appointed in each distribution point. They must have a defined authority and responsibility for ensuring that a quality system is implemented and maintained. The management representatives must fulfill the responsibilities personally, and must be appropriately qualified. Also, the other requirement of the personal requirements for the GSDP, that the key personnel involved in the warehousing of the medicinal product or medical products or medical devices must have an appropriate ability and experience to guarantee that the product or materials are properly stored and handled. Also, the personnel working within the company or organization must be trained in relation to their duties assigned to them, and to the training, and the training sessions must be recorded, and there must be a procedure in this regard related to the training, whether it's for a new employee or a new staff, or staff that is already within the organization. This is the major, only highlights of the personal requirements within the GSDP. Also, one of the GSDP requirements is the documentation. This is one of the major requirements, a documentation, and as I have mentioned, each process or activity must be written in, must be documented. Okay, now all documentation should be made available on request of a contract acceptor, or based on a request of a regulatory authority. For orders, from the wholesalers also must be addressed only to persons authorized to supply products as wholesalers, or to the holders of manufacturing or importing authorization. Also, the documentation, it includes a procedures. We must have a written procedures that describe the different operations, activities, and processes which may affect the quality of the product or the distribution activity. They must be approved, signed, and dated by the person responsible for the quality system. And this is one of the issues that many organizations, they have conflict in this regard. They usually approve the documentation by their top management. Now, the documentation, as I've mentioned, that it must include the procedures. There are a few major procedures that must be available. It's around 20 or 25 procedures. Those are basic procedures that must be available within the company or the organization, starting from the standard procedures for initiating or creating a quality management documentation, starting from the SOP on SOP, how to write SOP, how it's controlled, distributed, the revision of the documentation, the numbering or identifications of documents and items, the training procedures, and this is a very important procedure. Then after that, that, we'll go to recall procedure, CAPA procedure, complaints procedure, hold procedures, release procedure, cleaning procedure, controlling the storage conditions procedure, the security procedure, returned goods procedure, many procedures. There are around 20 or 25 procedures that are considered as basic procedures for the good storage and distribution practices. Now, also, the documentation must cover the records. We should have a manual and electronic records. They should be made at the time each operation is taken, and in such a way that all significant activities or events are traceable. Backdated records, it's not allowed. It's not allowed. The records must be clear and readily available to comply with the good to comply with the good documentation practices. By the way, the good documentation practices, this one of the important practices that must be trained within the organization to ensure that all documents and records compliant with the good documentation practices. This is a requirement of the GSDP. Also, the records must be retained for a period specified within the national legislation, but not shorter than the 10 years, and it should be readily available. It should be kept, the records must be kept of each purchase and sale. They must show the date of the purchase or supply, the name of the medicinal product, the quantity received or supplied, and the name and address of the supplier or the consignee. Now, about the premises and equipment, they should be suitable and adequate to ensure proper conservation and distribution of all medicinal or medical products. The premises must be planned in a way to ensure the implementation of the good storage and distribution practices. There should be always regular planned and documented checks for verifying the physical conditions, such as the checks on doors, seals, the absence of holes in walls and roofs, ground, the correct lighting, for example, and etc. The access to premises must be controlled and secured in order to prevent access of non-authorized persons. All utility premises, such as offices, the dressing rooms, toilets, etc., they have to be fully segregated from the storage premises. As for the equipment must be qualified and validated prior to use. We must have monitoring devices within the organization, and those monitoring devices must be calibrated, and the equipment shall be properly maintained and inspected. Now, the other requirement for the GSDP is the process flow. And the process flow, it includes the receipt, storage, and deliveries to the customers. And there should be a flow diagrams for the receipt of the products, for the storage for the storage, and for the flow diagram for the entrance of the employees. There should be flow diagrams for each process, whether that includes a product or a flow for the employees within the organization. First, I will talk about the flow of the receipt. Receiving bays should protect deliveries from bad weather during the unloading, and receiving areas must be separated from the storage area, and the products should be examined in order to verify that the received products not damaged during the transport, and that the consignment corresponds to the order including the correct code, batch, quantity versus ship note were received. The unreleased products should be separated from the released products. Product must be stored within the quarantine area until it's released. Then after that, it will be transferred to the release area. Dangerous products at reception and during the storage must be segregated following local regulatory requirements and environmental and safety prescriptions. Storage conditions and handling instructions on the product packaging shall be followed. So we will consider each storage conditions and handling instructions for each product separately. The verification of correct transport conditions shall be performed and documented. So, for example, controlled cold chain shipment from manufacturing plant to local warehouse. Medicinal products subject to specific storage measures or conditions, for example, narcotics, products requiring a specific storage temperature, flammable products, etc., they should be immediately identified and stored in accordance with the written instructions and in compliance with relevant local requirements. Also, the non-defective medicinal products which have been returned, they must be kept apart from the sellable stock to prevent the redistribution until the decision is reached regarding their disposal. We also must have records of returns. We must have also we have to consider that recalled products are stored in the recalled area, and this must be a separated and segregated area, secured sorry, secured area. Also, one of the other things that must be considered within the receipt requirements is the responsible person should formally release goods to be returned to stock. This is for returned products. As for the storage, medicinal products must be stored apart from other goods and under the conditions specified by the manufacturers. They must be stored, or the storage facility must be clean and free from dust and pests. The temperature must be monitored continuously, recorded and controlled periodically, and there should be a procedure in this regard. And if specific temperature storage conditions are required, so storage areas should be equipped with calibrated temperature recorders or other devices that will indicate when this specific temperature range has not been maintained. Or maybe other devices that will indicate when the specific temperature it has not been reached. Now, temperature deviation, for example. Now, the system must within the storage area must ensure that the stock rotation, it's FIFO, and the FIFO is the first expiry, first out. It's not the FEFO, it's not the FIFO, it's not the first in, first out. Okay, so we must ensure that stock rotation is according to FIFO, first expiry, first out. It's regular and frequent checks must be performed to ensure this rotation. Products already exceeded the expiry date or shelf life, they should be separated from the usable stock and neither sold nor supplied. The non-conforming products, expired products, returned products, broken products, broken sealed, also they must be withdrawn from the sellable stock immediately and they must be kept in a clearly separated area so that they cannot be sold in error or can contaminate other goods. Systems for removing expired products from the available stock, or at least a monthly basis. We have to ensure we have to ensure that there is no direct contact of the finished products with walls, ceiling, floors, doors, and doors. Okay, and we have to ensure that products are protected from the direct exposure to heating or ventilation system. Now, why storage? By the way, storage is very important. Why it's important in pharmaceutical industry? Because the storage ensures the identity, the strength, the quality, and the purity of the products. So proper storage, it will ensure that they are not affected, that the identity, the quality, the purity of the product are not affected. Okay, so we must ensure that storage area have the appropriate conditions of temperature, humidity, and light. And we must ensure that unauthorized processes are not entering the storage areas. The last flow that I will talk about now is the deliveries to customers. Deliveries to customers, we have to ensure that deliveries are only for authorized customers. Shipping area should be separated from normal storage area. A process to prepare an order shall be defined and installed to ensure that the correct product, correct batch, correct quantity is selected during order preparation. And unreleased products must not be picked or sold. Must not be sold. The preparation must be in a separated area, the preparation of orders. In case of emergency, wholesalers should be in a position to supply immediately the required medicinal products. To identify dangerous products with appropriate warning labels on the shipping packaging prior to shipments, and to ensure not to cover the original product labeling. All products should be transported in a such way that it's identified and traceable. So identification and traceability are not lost. The right product is delivered to the right addressee in due time. Product does not contaminate and are not contaminated by other products or materials. There should be an adequate precautions. They should be taken against pre-cage or thief. The products are not subjected to unacceptable degrees of heat, cold, light, moisture, or other adverse influence, nor to attack by microorganisms or pests. Now, the other requirement of the GSDP is the self-inspection. We have to ensure that the self-inspection is conducted in order to monitor the implementation of the and the compliance of the good storage and distribution practices with the GDP principles, GSDP principles, GSP principles, and to propose necessary corrective measures. Audit of subcontracting activities should be a part of the self-inspection programs. Also, we have to consider the contract operations within the GSDP. When outsourcing activities, a written contract should be drawn up. A written contract should be established for any activity likely to impact on the GSDP related activities, and the contract should specify their responsibilities. The contract giver is responsible for the activities contracted out, and the contract acceptor should have adequate premises and equipment, knowledge and experience, and competent personnel to carry out satisfactorily the work ordered by the contract giver. Now, also, one of the important issues that must be covered and considered within the GSDP is the complaints. There should be a written procedure in place for handling a complaint. And by the way, Dr. Mona, this is one of the issues that we have mentioned. It's a concern for also the pharmacovigilance. So complaints, it's not only a procedure for a quality issue or for GSDP, it's also an issue for the pharmacovigilance. And in the meantime, pharmacovigilance are involved within the complaints procedures. One of the responsible personnel within that have responsibilities within the complaint procedure is the pharmacovigilance. Okay, so any complaint concerning a potential product defect or a potential falsified product should be recorded with all the original details and investigated. And the national competent authority, they should be notified without delay if required about any complaint. The returns also, it's one of the considerations of the GSDP. Returned products should be kept apart from the sellable stock until the responsible person has taken a decision. And returned products should only return to the stock. There are some cases in which they return the product to the stock, but these cases we have to ensure that the goods are in the original unopened containers and in good conditions. Okay, and it's formally declared from the customers that the goods have been stored and handled under proper conditions with special attention that should be given to products with special storage conditions. Sorry.
I will take ahead and give you 2 minutes. So thank you, Dr. Nahed, and for your continuous support and educational material that you are giving us. If anyone have a question for Dr. Nahed, please put it in the Q&A, and by the end of the session, we will read them and try to answer all of them. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Sure.
Okay, now back to the GSDP. Also, we have to consider the recalls. There should be also written procedures for recalls, and they must include the urgent and non-urgent recalls. The system, we have to ensure that the system within the company or organization of recording deliveries should be enabled all destinations of product to be immediately identified and contracted. Traceability, tracking and traceability. And in case of batch recall, all customers should be informed with the appropriate degree of urgency. Also, we have to mention the counterfeit. Counterfeit medicinal products found in the distribution network should be segregated from the other medicinal products to avoid any confusion. They should be clearly labeled as not for sale, immediately, physically and securely segregated from the other medicinal products. Also, there should be documentation in place that describes how the distributor increases their staff's awareness of the risks of falsified medicinal products entering the supply chain. Now, I have tried to highlight the most important issues that must be covered within the GSDP. Also, I would like to, at the end, I would like to summarize why we need the GSDP. Just a few moments. Okay. Okay. What are the GSDP benefits? based on all what I have mentioned. Now we need the GSDP to ensure that all parties involved in the operation and supply chain meet the WHO good distribution practices, good storage practices, and good storage distribution practices. And as I have previously mentioned today, that the good storage distribution practices, it includes the good storage practices and good distribution practices. It depends on the activity of the organization. If you only store a product, so you have to apply the good storage practices. If you only distribute the product, so you need to apply the good the distribution practices. And if you you are responsible of storage and distribution, so you need to apply both the good storage and the good distribution practices. Now, the GSDP, the benefits and importance of the GSDP is the increasing the management level and visibility of the enterprises, ensuring that medical or pharmaceutical product quality in the supply chain is consistent so that enterprises receive greater economic benefits, supporting the removal of trade barriers and access to international markets, enhancing a product's competitiveness and its market, including field occupancy. And if you allow me to highlight that PRA Consultancy Center and SOP Consultancy Center, we are specialized in equality. So we provide the GSDP services. We ensure that medical pharmaceutical products are stored, handled, and distributed in compliance with the WHO good storage and distribution requirements. We can create and update your quality management system. We have the services of the QMS audits and certifications. We provide consultation services for the GSDP. We help you to be GSDP inspection ready, and we can help you to implement the GDP or GSP or GSDP to ensure the quality of your products or services in a globally consistent, reliable, and efficient way through services and solutions tailored to the medical pharmaceutical industry. And thank you.
Thank you very much, and well done. الله يعطيك العافية.
Allah يعافيك.
We will go with some of our questions since we are running out of time, and we already have online 108 attendees. So it's very interesting topic, and everyone wants to know about it. So in UAE ministry, they issue GSDP is the same that can be used international. I did not get your question. If you can repeat, did you get it, Doctora?
Maybe if she, I don't know, maybe they're asking if the UAE GSDP regulations.
We have two kind of, so maybe in UAE we have a different GSP. We have a GSP license by Ministry of Health. It's for the free zone medical stores. So I'm not aware if you are talking about the same or no. So please, can you clarify your question? Second question is, I have joined this from this email on the phone and I have registered within this email. Sorry, I cannot help you. We are already done. طيبة. The third one is, thank you. Can you please put some temperature mapping in GSDP?
Temperature mapping is one of the requirements of the GSDP, and this is it should be according to the area. There must be a mapping for your store. You should have a mapping in winter season, and you should have a mapping for your store in summer season. There are requirements for the temperature mapping. If you're interested in such a topic, we might have a webinar in this regard with Dr. Muna later. Yes.
Thank you, Rasha. So Rasha is saying, thank you, Dr. Nahid. It was very nice presentation. Someone is asking how to get a job in Germany. Sorry, we are in Middle East, so we cannot help you in Germany. What did you mean by emergency transportation?
Yes, in case the product are transported from an area to other area. For example, it has been taken from the warehouse and it's during the transportation, it's going to the customer or the pharmacy or the hospital, etc. There might be an emergency the vehicle or the transportation, there might be an emergency and they cannot take the product to the end destination. So there must be a procedure for such issues to be handled to ensure that the product is not affected by this emergency.
Okay, next question. Gloria says, good morning. Thank you for your presentation, doctor. And how are non-conformant product to be disposed, especially expired product?
Yes, it depends on your authority regulations. Of each regulatory, they have their own legislations and regulations in this regard. So you have to follow your regulatory authority regulations in this regard. There is a procedure for each regulatory authority.
Send us an email. I'll ask someone from my team to guide you on how to do it in UAE if you are in UAE. Rada, hello everyone. It's very nice webinar regarding returns. It's only physical check is enough to decide if we can get it back into inventory. Is the humidity essential to be controlled for the finished product or what?
Yes, I will start from the last question. Yes, the humidity must be controlled. You have to control the temperature and the humidity both. And the mapping, by the way, for mapping issue, the mapping for a store mapping, it must be for the temperature and the humidity. And you have to consider the weakest point within the store for humidity and temperature for both, okay? Now, as for the first question regarding the return products, they must be, they will be checked physically. It will be enough, but as I have mentioned, that the customer must declare that they were in good storage conditions, and you should already have information about this customer if he's following the storage regulations or not. So this will give you an impact if the product has been stored in a good conditions or not. And you also have to consider if the product is sensitive for temperature, for example. Maybe some products are not allowed, by the way, to be returned. Not all products are allowed to be returned, and this is it's sometimes company policy. Not all products are allowed to be returned, especially if they are one of the cold chain products, by the way. Yes, that should be stored within specific conditions, and they are sensitive for the storage conditions.
Why in the GSDP we have the SOP for that criteria of returns and everything. So you need to cover it with a specific aspect according to your product, actually.
Yes. Yes.
Please, can we have a soft copy of this lecture where we can digest it and implement it? Actually, it is recorded. Within 1 week, you can find it on our social media, and you can go back and listen to it whenever required. So again, she said, yes, free zone GSDP. So the free zone is GSP, but okay, GSDP for Mohab. Is it different than the international? It's not different, but it's a different aspect. So the GSP of a free zone is the medical store license in a free zone that allow you to act as an hub and will allow you to import and re-export. However, the GSP that we are talking about today is more related to the SOPs, quality, pharmacovigilance for a local and non-local free zone markets. So it depends on your entity. Taiba, I'm working as a pharmacovigilance responsible North. How can I use this to be useful for me? How this can be useful for her? She's asking. She's a pharmacovigilance.
Yes, listen, for pharmacovigilance, you should have a pharmacovigilance system. Within the pharmacovigilance system, there should be a module related to a quality management system. So you should have very well knowledge about your quality management system, and you should cover the requirements of the quality management system within your pharmacovigilance system. This is the first issue. The second one you should have a procedures within your pharmacovigilance system. So those procedures must be according to your quality management system within your company and organization. Okay. The third issue that there are quality processes such as recall, hold, complaint, medical inquiries, for example. Those are quality issues, but now, in the meantime, the pharmacovigilance are involved within these quality issues. So you should ensure that you have responsibilities within this procedure. And the last thing is that within your pharmacovigilance system, you should have a specific procedures, the basic procedures for pharmacovigilance and the basic procedures for quality. The basic procedures for quality starts from the SOP on SOP, how to write quality documentation, and then after that to the quality processes like the recall, CAPA, by the way, CAPA, the deviations, etc. All those quality procedures must be within your system, and you should be trained on how to implement such a procedure.
Great. So someone is asking about our social media. I will ask Rabia to post on the chat box our social media channels, Rabia, if you don't mind.
Yes,
Hanan
of course.
Thank you. Hanan Youssef is saying, is shipping pharmaceutical products stored 2 to 8 silices through 3 destination is allowed from the GSDP procedure and allowed from regulatory agencies? 3
Yes, it's
destinations.
allowed if you consider the GSDP and all 3 destinations, all transportation and storages or warehouses within those 3 destinations, they are applying the GSDP. Yes, it's allowed.
Yeah, and I think you need to tackle and track and with your data loggers as well.
Yes, yes, sure.
What are likely post-market surveillance studies that can be done by MAH? This is another topic, I guess it's not a GSTP, and it's huge to discuss it now as a question. But if you want to give any insight, Victoria, what are likely post-market surveillance studies that can be done by the MAH, which is Marketing Authorization Holder?
As you mentioned, Dr. Mona, it's a huge topic. There are many studies that are covered within the post-marketing surveillance. Yes, so
send us an email and we can do a special call.
Yes.
Dr. can explain it for you.
Yes.
What is the right temperature and humidity for storage?
Yes, it depends on your zone first. Okay, if the product is controlled room temperature, and it depends on the recommended storage conditions for the product. If it's a cold product or not, requires refrigeration or to be freezed, etc. So it depends on your zone if it's a controlled temperature product or if it's cold or not. So you have to check with your regulatory authority, and you can go through the ICH and WHO guidelines in this regard for your product.
Good morning. Is there a time frame on how temperature deviation can affect medicinal product in transit?
Listen, I'll tell you something. For each product, there must be stability studies that are conducted by the manufacturer or the marketing authorization holder to detect how much the product can handle the different storage conditions, the temperature, the different temperatures and the humidities. And those within those stability studies, they check the exergence of these stability of these temperature and humidity within all the supply chain. Okay, now, so once you have a temperature deviation during the transit, you have to contact the marketing authorization holder or the manufacturer of the product. They have to know for the temperature at that time, what is the temperature, for how long the product is affected by this temperature, and they will refer to the stability studies they have. It's called the, I missed its name, it's called the, I will remember now, I will tell you what it's called. There are specific stability studies that each manufacturer and marketing authorization holder should have, and based on that, they will decide if this product it can be used for sale later or not. It should be disposed. Okay.
Great.
When I remember, I will tell you what's the name of the stability study.
No, thank you for the presentation. Can you please advise about the audit plan? Is there an audit plan for the
Yes. Maybe she mean the audit plan that I have mentioned for the service providers, maybe, and for this maybe for the self-inspection. Okay.
Another question also for the self-inspection. Maybe we can speak about both.
Okay, I will talk about both. For the service providers, there should be a pre-audit. It depends, by the way, on the type of the service provider. There are a risk group 1 of service providers, and those risk group 1, the service providers which are in there, they have a direct contact with the product. Okay, so they might affect the quality and the safety of the product. So based on that, the risk group 1 of the service providers, you have to audit them before you sign a contract with them. Okay. Then after signing the contract, there should be a planned audit during the year, at least one, and one unplanned audit that should be performed on the service providers. So there are at least 2 audits that should be conducted on the service provider. For the self-inspection, there should be an annual self-inspection plan that should be prepared at the end of the year. Okay, and there are many criteria that must be considered for the self-inspection, but how many times you perform the self-inspection, it depends on the previous results of the previous self-inspection for the last year. So based on that, you will know how many times to perform the self-inspection within 1 year or annually.
I cannot agree more. So another question from Nadia. Thank you so much for the session and webinar subject and the presentation. Hope if you can share some of the samples of the SOP that is related to the GSDP documents. Actually, Nadira, if we will give you a sample of the SOP, we will make your life difficult more. I don't think it will be easier because you cannot go with one SOP. When you want to make a cake, you cannot get an egg and do a cake. There is a lot of ingredients to have a cake done, right? So I don't think we can give you a sample, sorry. But if you need any kind of consultation, we can give you a free consultation. Let us know, and Dr. Nahed or me can support you on the same. So this is another question. We have spoken about self-inspection. How could the interest gap between economics and regulation be bridged to ensure the science or the sincere of communication between regulator and people among supply chain of pharmaceutical? This is a politics. How economics and regulatory can come together?
It's very difficult in the meantime, but I think that now for business everybody can do this in the meantime.
I believe it's good that they don't come together, because if they come together, then everyone's lives will be very difficult. So it's the gap. Sometimes the gap is good because there is a room of negotiation and they understand each other where we can get better solutions. Butros, that in this training you have marketing and distribution companies as well as regulators. This training, it's meant to be for regulator or marketeers?
No, it's not for regulators. It's for marketeers. It's for distributors. It's for the logistics.
It's for both of them, actually. I know it depends on what is regulator is doing.
Yes.
If regulator is working in medical studies, for both of them, actually. Ukuma, sorry if I'm saying the names wrongly. What is the backtracking?
Yes, it's backtracking. Then when you want to withdraw a product or recall or return a product from the market or from the consumer or the customer, so you have to know uh, uh, which whom are the customers of the product that they have your product, the defective product, for example. So you need to know whom they are. Then after that, you withdraw. This is the backtracking. Is the withdrawal of the product.
Okay. Lina, have a nice question. Thank you, Dr. Nahid, for informative session.
Yes, exergent stability studies. Yes, exergent stability studies. Yes,
Good.
they have another, there is another name, forced degradation stability studies, exergent stability studies, and forced degradation stability studies, both. Two different names. Yes, thank you.
And she's asking question, is there a different requirements for a medical devices rather than pharmaceutics for the GSDP?
It depends on the type of the medical device, the class of the medical device, and but the same concerns of the GSDP. Yeah, what is applied for the medicinal products, it will be applied to the medical devices, and also you have to consider the type and the class of the medical device.
Okay. How do all this apply for medical devices, especially looking at the burden of classification system in a medical device being as the zoning specification for the ICH seems to be squeezed towards the pharmaceutical? She answered already that it depends on your product and how is the SOPs related to the authority in the same region.
Yes.
May I know the frequency of this training? Actually, we don't have a specific topic and go frequent, but every month PRA try to give a free webinar on a hot topic that is happening or that is really attacking everyone in the region, just as a knowledge sharing thing. We have some people who already raised up their hand. Do you want to join us? Can we hear your voices? Noguzi and Shinewi, do you want to speak? You are raising up your hand. Shall I allow you to talk? Or I think by mistake it's up. Hello? Shinewi Nui? Sorry. I think by mistake it was. Okay, so thank you very much, Dr. Anahed. I think we have reached to the end of the webinar. And thank you everyone for attending. One last question we got. Thank you, Dr. Nahed, for your presentation. Can you please enlighten us on how to conduct a good temperature mapping? I think we need to have another webinar on temperature mapping, maybe.
Yes.
Sorry, because it's a huge topic. I don't think we can cover it now in a few minutes.
Yes.
Okay. And thank you very much for joining us and for your valuable time and valuable information. Thank you for all attendees having you on board and looking forward to see you soon. Yes? Ngozi, are you there?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, I was going to ask for the session. Would you be available for us to
Sorry,
review
dear,
back?
your voice is interrupted. Can you please be away a bit from the mic?
Okay. Hello. Can you
Yes.
hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, it's not so clear, but we will try to listen. Yes, please.
I was asking them, would the session be available for us to review back, for us to go back to it and listen to
Dear,
this again?
it's not clear at all. We cannot hear you well. Do you want to write in the chat box? What do you want to ask us?
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me better?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, go
Hello?
ahead, please.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please go ahead.
This is Ngozi speaking.
Yes,
What
hello.
we are trying to say is, if the document, what your presentation, whether it can be reviewed again, if we can get a copy of it.
Sorry, but we don't have really material for this presentation. However, the recorded webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel that is mentioned in the chat box. And you can go there and
Okay.
listen anytime you want, but within 1 week, we will have it online.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
All
for
right.
your yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. مرة ثانية شكرا دكتورة ناهد. Thank you very much for joining. See you
شكراً.
soon.